Hello, everyone. Welcome to Powerhouse Hour. Welcome to our empowerment hour session this morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you are watching us from. We'll shortly start. Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Mhm. Again, welcome to Powerhouse Hour. We are a group of Jesus lovers, and we've been called to introduce people all over the world to the love of Christ and win souls for his kingdom. And today, this is our empowerment session where we discuss different topics that touch on our lives in different areas for us to gain knowledge, understanding, and grow and make better choices for us so that we can do what the Lord called us to do as we are here on earth. And today we are touching on financial intelligence. So, this is our financial intelligence seminar. And to begin with, we want to speak more about who we are, our vision, our mission, and why this empowerment session today. So I just invite you to watch this short clip that will tell you more about us. Thank you.
We are a chosen generation. We've been called to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are a chosen generation. We've been called to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me. For I know who I am. I know who God says I am. What He says I am. Where He says I'm at. I know who I am. I know who God says I am. What He says I am. Where He says I'm at. I know who I am. I'm working in power. I'm working miracles. I live a life of favor. For I know who I am. I'm working in power. I'm working miracles. I live a life of favor. For I know who I am.
Amen. Amen. So that's a little bit about us. And why do we have this empowerment session today? So when we look at our guiding principles, the second one, it says that Powerhouse Hour is here to empower men and women through studying the scriptures, Christian books, and sharing amongst ourselves. So this is what we're doing today. We are sharing amongst ourselves so that we may discover our true identity in Christ, be filled with the love of Christ, the fullness of God, and be equipped in our God-given gifts to fulfill our destiny and life purposes. And today we are here to equip us in the finance area, right? And I did a bit of research and I found that Jesus talked about money more than anything else other than the kingdom of God. And he talked about money more than heaven and hell combined. And 25% of all the parables have connection to money. And I think he did this because money causes stress and it can steal our peace. And so he talked about it to give us freedom and a new perspective. So I just encourage you to open your ears and your heart to hear what we have to say today. But we have a disclaimer, right? And this presentation, it reflects our experiences so far, and it is intended for educational purpose only and does not replace independent professional judgment. And so before you act on any information that we're going to share today, please consider the appropriateness of it, having regard to your own personal objectives, your financial situation, and please seek advice. Thank you. And so today agenda, we have five big themes that we want to cover. The first one being cash flow. So we are going to look at what is the financial objectives, what a cash flow statement looks like, and how can we manage our cash based on our cash flow statements. Then we're going to cover budgeting, financial planning, looking at income, our expenses, and how can we track our spending. Then we'll go to debt monitoring, looking at the ABCs of credit, credit score, how do we establish credit, and how do we maintain good credit, because that's a very important piece. And then we'll look at savings, the purpose of savings. We're going to have a speaker joining us today, Vanessa Cabrera, that will speak on life insurance. Then we'll talk about what can we put in place to begin saving. And then we're going to zoom in the 401k savings. Then we're going to speak about tithing. This part will be more interactive, looking at myths around tithing. What should we tithe? Offering versus tithe, blessings that are activated by tithing. What are the steps we can take to move into tithing lifestyle. And if we're going to ask in the end, if we haven't tithed before, are we going to consider that after our discussion today? So, cash flow. We're going to start with this big section. And what is cash flow? It's a very simple concept. I think in this world today, we all manage cash in our lives. If we are working, we get a salary every month. And so that money in our hands is our cash, right? We use it to pay for our expenses. So cash flow refers to payments that are made into or out of business, project, financial products like investments. And it refers to the movement of money. So when we say inflows, it's everything that comes in our hands or our bank accounts, and outflows is everything that comes out. Is that simple as that? What should we look at cash flow, right? We have to pay a closer attention to our cash because everything springs from our cash flow, right? We have to be able to track our expenses from the cash that we have in hands, looking at a given time over a month, over a quarter, looking at our ins and out. That will help us to track our expenses and see where we need to make changes, right? Looking at our cash flow helps us to reduce costs where we can. It helps us to prepare for inflation. Currently in the world, we have inflation in everywhere on all the 5 continents. People are going through inflationary times. The cost of living has gone up, cost of housing, of food, of medical assistance, everything has gone up, right? And by looking at our cash flow, we can help alleviate some of those pressures. Looking at our cash flow help us also to deal with debts and help us to plan for short-term and also long-term financial goals. Here we have an example, right, of a cash flow statement. On the right side, on the left side, we have all the cash inflows. So we have everything coming into us, like our salary. If we have investment, we get a dividend at the end, usually on a quarterly basis. If we have a rental property that we are renting, we get a rental income. And if we have a side business, we can call that a freelance work. So that brings us money. And here you can see this person have 4,000 in salary, 200 in dividend income, 1,000 in rental, 500 in freelance. And so this person at the end of the day has 5,700 in total cash inflows. And then on the right side, we have all the monies that goes out of our bank accounts, of our hands. So that's the outflows. So here we have housing expenses, living expenses like food, transportation. If we have debts, then we have to pay a certain amount, usually on a monthly basis. Insurance premiums, savings, healthcare, education and childcare, entertainment and recreation, and miscellaneous expenses. So the total outflows come to 4,800. And so when we subtract 4,800 from the total cash inflows, the 5,700, we have our net cash flow of 900. So this is a very simple table that we can do for our own personal lives on a monthly basis. We can do this over a period of 3 to 6 months. That will give us a picture of where our inflows are coming in, usually on a monthly basis. But most importantly, where do our money goes on the outflow portion? Because usually we have a better understanding of our salary because we've signed a contract, we go to work, and we know that this month this is what I'm making. But usually we lose track of what we're spending. And I think that having a personal cash flow statement can help us to pinpoint those areas where we're spending a lot and then help us to ask the right questions. Why do I spend so much on living expense or transportation? And then what can I do to lower those costs? Cash management. Balancing our income and our expenses to meet our financial obligation without setbacks. This is one of the result of managing our cash, right? That we have this visual picture of where our money is coming from and where it's going to. And then that can help us to prepare and plan for the future. Cash management help us to understand our earnings and our expenses and help us to be empowered really to take financial risks, plan for investment, for taxes, for education, for retirement, and for wealth transfer for our children, our grandchildren. And cash management also help to ensure that our earnings exceed our spending because ultimately this is where we want to be. We want to spend less than what we are earning and have enough liquidity for emergencies because we don't know, we cannot really plan for emergencies. These are things that fall onto us out of nowhere, and it's wiser to have money on the side to tackle those emergencies. And now we're going to discuss budgeting, financial planning. And Sister Lamre, I'll let you discuss this portion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Natalie, for that presentation. You're welcome to the next aspect of today's financial intelligence seminar. And in this section, we're going to be looking at budgeting. Budgeting essentially is planning. So some of the points that were mentioned under cash flow also comes under budgeting. Now, the difference here in budgeting is essentially how to allocate your resources. So if you look at the corporate world, for example, you get in a funding, and then the question is, how do you allocate that funding to meet various services that are being provided? So it's just exactly the same that we mirror in our own lives as well. That, okay, at the end of every day or every week, I make so much income. Now, how do I allocate that income to make sure that it covers all of my expenses? So to a layman, that is what budgeting is. And we don't want to make anything complex because we are aware of the fact that we have non-financial audience here, and it would not be productive and useful to be using any sort of terminologies that we can't understand. So in this section, we have the introduction. This section of financial intelligence is focused on budgeting, just like I've explained, and it's to do with your personal financial planning. What is budgeting? This is the dictionary definition of budgeting. It says a budget is a plan that shows you how you can spend your money every month. So from the first section on cash flow, we could see that mirrors that aspect of it. So it shows your inflows, it shows your outflows. And then it says it's making a budget can help you make sure that you don't run out of money each month. Again, that has been covered in the cash flow section. And then it says a budget will also help you save money for your goals or for emergencies. Later on in this presentation, there is a section that actually covers more about savings. So we're not going to go into the details of savings in this section. This section is essentially looking at how we can allocate our resources. So our resources is our income. Now, here, you will see that when Sister Natalie talked about cash flow, she mentioned income. So this is not just your actual income, but it also includes projected income. So when we're looking at budgeting, we're looking at we're not just looking at a month, but we are looking at forecast. So we're forecasting based on our actuals, based on what income is coming in right now. We can forecast for a period of time. We can forecast 3 months, we can forecast 12 months, and look at our income stream. And what that does is it actually helps you to look at your potential of earning more income. And if you're somebody who does business or trade, it helps you as well look at what you are earning now and potentially what you can earn as well. And like I said, it's projected, it's looking at projections, it's looking at forecast, it's looking at, oh, what's my capacity to earn more income? It's looking at probably you have a project or you want to bid for a contract or you want to approach a bank because you want to start a business and you need funding. So all of this information is needed. So definitely when you go approach a bank or a lender, you're going to need, one of the essential criteria is you need to produce a budget. So that's where a budget comes in, and it's a very useful tool for planning. So it is a planning tool, not just in the corporate world, but in your own private life as well. Planning is very, very important, so that you can make the right decisions. And then we also look at business capital. So you want, like I explained before, you want to go into a particular business, definitely you need capital in order to bring into the business. Because when you go to a bank, they're going to ask you, what capital do you have to invest in the business that you want to go into? And later on, my sister is going to look at capital versus loans, which means that it's going to look at the risk of you going into a loan agreement, and that loan eventually exceeds your capital. So there's another slide that is going to cover that area. So I'm not going to go into the detail of that. So after you have considered your income, and like I said, you now need to look at, how do I allocate this income? This income that is coming in, how do I allocate it? And that's where you look at your expenses. And there are some expenses that are fixed. There are some expenses that are statutory. There are also some expenses that are mandatory. There are some that are flexible. There are some that are variable. So for example, your rent, For example, if you're renting, it is a fixed sum, and it's also subject to increase, but you would always be given notice of your rent increase. Also, you have a mortgage. Your mortgage will depend on the kind of agreement you have entered into, and there are different products out there, but we're not going into that detail in this presentation today. Another area to look at, and it's very important, and it's always faithful, and it will turn up, is your utilities. And for utilities, there are various examples. And the good thing about budgeting is that you can actually shop around. You can actually make sure that you have good deals. And when you're going into any of these contracts or agreements, you can actually look at the various terms of the contract, and you can make decisions before you go into any of them. But there are some of them that are like legal and mandatory. For example, your council tax. Your council tax is not set by you, but the things like water, telephone, broadband, gas, electricity, you have a choice of, shopping around to make sure that you have a good deal. Tithes and offering, that is going to be covered in another section of the presentation. So I'm not going to go into detail on that, but you need to budget for it. And then your food and your groceries, that is also an essential part of your resources that you need to allocate. And also it would help you to be able to make various choices of where you want to get your groceries and your food from, and also the frequency of it. Either you want to buy in bulk, or you just want to buy as you go, so. And then you have obviously your vehicle, your means of transport as well, that helps you in moving around for you to earn income. So that's another allocation of your resource, where you need to look at your bills, look at how much fuel you spend each month as well, and be able to budget for that. Also, when you look at your servicing, you can roughly know the time frame where you need to do where you need to carry out servicing on your vehicle, and you can also project that into your budgets. Sister Yabo is going to show you an example of budgets, later on. So you're going to see the layout of what a budget looks like. And then also, if you are trading, important is your item, all the items for your business. So as you have your resources, your capital that you have injected into the business, you need to allocate that capital into the various items that you need for your business. So essentially, you need to come up with a business plan. You need to have worked out your revenue, your income, your costs, and you must make sure that you cover every of your costs in detail in order for you to make sure that you break even. So when we say break even, you make sure that your income, the income you get from the business, it covers all of your costs. It covers all of your costs. And also, if you are a business person, you need, and also if you are on a contract, you also need to make sure that you budget for your tax. Because when you receive your income, or when you receive your money coming in from the cash flow example, it will not be taxed, unlike somebody who is employed. Somebody who is employed already pays their tax before they receive the income. But somebody who is self-employed, or somebody who is on a contract or on a different type of contract, I think some of them in the UK, it's called IR35, or I'm not sure, But what we're saying here is that you need to make sure that on your budget, you have on there your tax that you need to pay at the end of the period that your tax is due. When you are making your application, all the details will be given to you by the HMRC of when your tax is due. Also, if you have taken any loans, maybe credit card or maybe other business loans, you need to make sure that you put that into your budget, all the repayments, all the frequency of the repayments, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, you need to make sure that you put it in there together with any fees or any charges that you have to incur. You need to make sure that you account for that as well. Thank you. And the next slide. So on this next slide is just to show you some examples of monthly expenses that I have mentioned in the previous one. So this is like an example that you can use of the various expenses that you would budget for. Some of them would be, like healthcare as well. Healthcare is important as well to make sure that it's included in their child care. If you have, any dependents, you need to make sure that that is budgeted for as well. So if you have a car hire as well, you need to make sure that all your monthly payments are also budgeted for as well. So I think I've covered most of this as well. If holiday is essential for you to make sure that you plan for your holiday, plan for vacation as well. Because when you work hard, definitely you need a time, to relax, a time to chill out, a time, to spend, to have to yourself. So make sure you plan your holiday as well. Okay, thank you, sister. The next slide. Right, so here, part of budgeting is to track your spending. You're tracking your spending because obviously resources are limited. Resources are not unlimited. So it is essential that you track your spending so that you can stick to your budget. And that is to ensure that you're not spending more than your income. That's helping you as well to ensure that you are in control of your finances. So it's important that you are in control of your finances and you don't allow any external influences to control your finances. You need to make choices based on your finances, and therefore you cannot, if sister A or brother B is making a financial decision, you cannot make the same financial decision. You have to look at your own budget in order to make the right decision based on your circumstances so that you are not, you avoid overdraft. Because at the end of the day, overdraft, also there's a cost that is attached to overdraft. Also, tracking your spending is to avoid buying or spending on impulse. So, for example, I could approach Sister Natalie and say, oh, Sister Natalie, I've got this beautiful material and I know that you love it so much. And actually, I had you in mind, so here it is. You can have it. And guess what? You don't even have to pay me now. You can pay me later on. And then obviously Sister Natalie takes it from me in good faith, and then in 2 weeks' time, I now ring Sister Natalie. Oh, Sister Natalie, how are you? Actually, I need the money for that material. I told you that you can pay, but I actually need the money straight away. And then because you have sort of committed yourself, you have, there is no way of you backing out of it. So if you have a budget, that would help you to say, oh, actually, thank you very much, Sister Lanre. I really appreciate the fact that, you are giving me this offer, but actually, if you don't mind, I would not be able to commit to it. And straight away, that way you give it back. And then that way you are in control of your finances. You're not spending or buying on impulse. Or you walk into a store, all you want is a loaf of bread. And then right in front of you is there staring at you. If you buy one, you will get the other one half price. If you buy that, and then you are there, and then before you know it, you're spending on impulse. Or you go window shopping, and before you know it, you begin to use your credit card and you begin to spend. So budgeting is a self-discipline that would keep you on track and will help you to track your spending. It will also help you to ask questions that, do I really need this thing? Is it essential? I can do without it. And if you can do without it, then you don't want it. So budgeting will help you to ask those questions. Do I really need it? And then also a good benefit of budgeting in tracking your spending is you compare what you have budgeted with what you are actually spending. So if you have budgeted 12 pounds every month for your water bill, and your water bill is coming up at 15 pounds every month, straight away you know that there's an overspend there, and you want to look again at that contract, and you want to study and make sure that your usage, you can also control your usage of that utility so that you make sure that you are in line. So these are examples of how you can actually track your spending and compare your plan with your actual spending at all times. For example, your electricity as well, maybe the way you are using electricity, you can control it better. And then you can actually see that, you are making savings from that. Thank you. The next slide. And here is budgeting. The essence of budgeting is that it now helps you to get back on track. Sister Yabosh is going to talk more about this section as well. So that's what budgeting does. It will help you to get back on track, to say, okay, this is the resources that I have, and I'm going to make sure that I allocate all my I allocate my income in line with my expenses. And at the end of the day as well, I want to make sure that I have enough savings for any emergencies or any fallback. Thank you very much for this section of the seminar.